Welcome back, everyone. This is Jonathan here, and in this video we're going to get started on creating an enemy level up system. Now, before we get started in this video, I'm just going to warn you in advance that this video is going to get a little bit confusing with numbers, so I'm going to try to do my best to keep things separate and slow things down. And having said that, if you do feel at any point that I'm glossing over something too quickly, please leave me a comment, let me know, I will answer you, and if it's a complicated question, I might even create just an addendum video to go over that particular concept. So please do let me know if there's anything you want me to go over. So before we actually get into it, I just want to ask you a few questions. What's going to be different about updating the enemies as they level up versus creating a level up system for the player? It might seem very similar and you might be tempted to think we can just copy paste things over, but that's not going to work in this case. So I want you just to pause the video for a moment and take a difference to think about what the key difference is between leveling up and leveling the player and how we can handle that. And as a hint, we will be using a for loop for this solution. So pause the video and just think about that for a minute. Okay, welcome back. Did you have a chance to think about what might be different? Well, let's go right into it and take a look. So number one, the key difference here is when we're leveling up the player, there's really only one player ship. The player ship is static. It's there from the start until the player dies. And when we're leveling up the player, it's quite simple. We're just changing the player's values. The enemies, they all fly into the scene. So every single time an enemy flies into the scene, we can't just level it up. We need to actually determine what level it's starting at. And that's where the complications are going to begin. So first things first, we need to think about what the criteria is going to be for leveling up an enemy. And in this case, you can do this differently, but you're going to have to make some changes. In my case, I'm just going to say the enemy's level up is going to be based on how many waves we clear. So I'm going to take this ship level text, which I should have renamed. I'm just going to rename that now, ship level, and I'm going to duplicate this. That's Control D or Command D if you're on a Mac. And I'm going to change this to waves cleared, and I'm going to change the default text to waves cleared :0, and I'm probably going to have to shrink this down because it's getting a little big. So I'll make this font size 30. Do the same over here, font size 30. And shove this over slightly. And make it a little bit bigger just for troubleshooting, possibly down the road. Okay, now on this waves cleared text, we're going to remove the ship level script. So select none or remove that component. And actually, I'm just going to remove the component. And now we're going to add a new script, and we're going to call this new script simply waves cleared. So go ahead and create that, and then be tidy, move that and any other scripts that might be sitting here into the scripts folder. Okay, and now we will go ahead and open this waves cleared text and think about what we can do to create a criteria. Now, the waves cleared is going to be pretty similar to the ship level, so actually we can open that too and just copy the code over and make any necessary changes. If you're going to do this though, make sure don't copy this bit over here that says ship level at the top, because that will screw everything up. So I'm just going to copy everything below that. I'm going to get rid of this update first because we don't need update. But copy the start and the update ship level over onto the waves cleared. And up here at the top, also make sure you write in using Unity engine.ui, or else your text component will not work. And just for clarity, oops, I missed this here, private text. Just for clarity, I'm going to change this name here of text because I think text is a little confusing and not very clear. So I'm going to change the name of this to waves cleared. Now here, this is going to not be waves text, it's going to be waves cleared. And over here, it's also going to be waves cleared. and then we're just going to change the text in here to waves cleared. We're going to change this. This is not going to be current level. We're going to say int num waves cleared, make it more descriptive to what we're actually talking about. Copy that and replace this, and there's not going to be anything showing up after that, so we can just delete that part. And finally, this is not update ship level, this is update waves cleared. Now, how are we going to actually figure out what the waves cleared tally is? Well, the best place to do that is update this value where we actually respawn new waves, and that would be in our enemy formation controller script. So go ahead and open up the enemy formation controller script. Okay, let's open. Alright, so we're going to need to create a few variables. So under here, we're going to create a what we're going to do in this case, because we're going to need to access this from another script, so I'm going to write hide an inspector, because we don't want you don't want to be able to update this value from the inspector, but we are going to need to access this variable from another script. So we're going to make this public, an int, and number of waves cleared, num waves cleared for short. We're also going to need to be able to talk to our waves cleared script, so make a private waves cleared script. And I also know we're eventually going to need to talk to the enemy behavior script, so we're just to get this out of the way now, we're going to also do private enemy behavior. And in the start, we're going to put those couple of lines of extra code that let us talk to the waves cleared and enemy behavior. If you know how to do that, just go ahead and create that. If not, follow along. Waves cleared equals game object dot find object of type waves cleared, and do the same thing for enemy behavior. Enemy behavior equals game object dot find object of type enemy behavior. Okay, so this int number of waves cleared is going to basically talk to our waves cleared script and tell it how many enemy waves have been cleared. So it seems to me a logical place to update this would be under the all, where is it here? Where we're essentially looking after the respawning of our enemies. So if we look here under all members dead, we know that we're going to be spawning until full. And here's the reason we want to put this here. This script is going to get called into play as soon as the game begins. It's going to spawn the enemies until full, but if the game has just begun, no waves have been cleared, so therefore our number of waves cleared is going to stay at 0. But all members dead, that's the first time that all our enemies are going to be dead. So I'm also going to get rid of this debug.log. We don't need that here anymore. And under here, we're just going to say number of waves cleared plus plus, which increments that by 1. And then we're going to call our waves cleared script, waves cleared dot update waves cleared, and we're going to pass through our number of waves cleared. Does that make sense? Again, if it doesn't, please leave me a comment, let me know. But let's go ahead now and just test that out, make sure it's working. We're going to... Okay, so it updates. Waves cleared 1. Great, so we can now use that as a default. I gotta turn this volume down. Apologize. Okay, it's still working. Perfect. So we can use that now as a basis for determining just how many waves are being cleared at one point in time. And sorry, I was playing Overwatch on here, so my volume is turned way up. Okay, now let's hop into the enemy behavior script, and this is where it's going to get very confusing, unfortunately, but you have been forewarned. I don't have that script open, so if I click on the enemy prefab, I can, however, access that enemy behavior. Okay, here it is down here. Okay, so first things first, we're going to have to determine what our waves cleared leveling up criteria is going to be. So we're going to start by creating an integer array. We're going to call it public int waves cleared required. And I also know that we are going to need a private integer to determine our ship level. So I'm just going to create that now and call it private int ship level, which by default is going to be 0. Now, if we go back to Unity and look at our script under the enemy behavior, we're going to see we have an integer array, waves cleared required, and you can make this whatever you want, but I'm just going to create it as a size of 5 for simplicity. Now, here's where it's going to get confusing, because this is going to be an integer array which starts at 0 and then counts 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But really it's 5 elements, and each of these elements is going to have a different amount of waves cleared required for the enemies to level up. So I'm going to say that you're going to have to destroy 2 enemy waves, and then 3 enemy waves, and then 4 enemy waves, and then 5 enemy waves, and then 6 enemy waves in order to, and every time you clear that number of waves, the enemy's going to get stronger at that value. But we're going to use that integer ship level to determine what ship level the enemy is going to be, and that's going to be different from the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4s and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6s. We want that essentially to be 1 at element 0, 2 at element 1, 3 at element 2, 4 at element 3, and 5 at element 5. So I'm deliberately giving all these numbers here different values just so we can keep the numbers separate, but I did warn you this is going to get confusing, so do your best to follow along, pause and rewatch if you need to, but for now, let's go into it. So similar to the player level up, we are going to create a public void here, and we're going to call this check waves cleared, and then we're just going to open and close squiggly brackets. Actually, excuse me, it does not need to be public. We can get rid of the word public and just make it void check waves cleared. Now, how is this going to get called? Well, every single time a new enemy ship spawns, the start method is going to get called. So right here under start, we can just go ahead here and create check waves cleared. Oh, I should mention now, this script is also going to need to talk to the formation controller. So we're going to have a private formation controller, and under start, we're going to put another one of these here. We're going to say formation controller equals game object dot find object of type formation controller. So at the start, when every single ship spawns, the first thing it's going to do is check to see how many waves are cleared and then update itself accordingly. So if we go here under check waves cleared, we can start writing this out. And bear with me because this is going to get a little bit confusing. So I'm going to do my best to explain it, and if you have any questions, again, please let me know. So we're going to start by creating a for loop, which you haven't done in the course, but if you followed my advanced block breaker, you have covered that there. So the way a for loop works is like this. You start by declaring an integer, and you have to actually give it an initial value. You can't just say int I, you have to actually say int I equals 0. And then you put in a criteria for the loop. Now in this case, we're going to say, actually, we haven't created this part yet. So we haven't created any criteria. So first thing we're going to do is create some criteria and say, we're going to declare an integer here, and we're going to say int num waves cleared, and this is going to be our number of waves cleared, and we're going to have to get this from the formation controller. So we're just going to declare int num waves cleared is equal to the formation controller's number of waves cleared. And if you recall over here in formation controller, we created this, we made this public, and we did hide and inspector. That way we can call it for this very reason. Where are we? Enemy behavior, right over here. Okay, so now with that in mind, what we can say for this criteria in the for statement is number of waves cleared is greater than or equal to waves cleared, do we create this? Waves cleared required at position I. And then this last part here, and you have to put semicolons within the for loop being declared. We're going to say I++. And for some reason here, I don't know why, it sometimes like to show up red as if this waves cleared required does not actually exist. But if we scroll up here to the very top, we can see it is declared. Waves cleared required, because I put a capital W, and that should be a small w. Okay. So let me try to explain this for loop in a little bit of detail. We're declaring our initial integer here. Then this little section is the criteria for while the loop will run. So as long as the number of waves cleared is higher than the waves cleared required at position I, this loop will run. And then every time the loop runs, we're going to increment I by 1. Just to make this even a little more clear, let's take a look back at our inspector. This is our waves cleared required, and I'm sorry, this might be a little small, so it's kind of hard to see. But we're basically saying we want to determine what element of the array we should be looking at here. So we're saying if we've cleared 3 waves, we should no longer be looking at element 0, we should be looking at now at element 1. And then if the criteria here is still met, if we've cleared 3 waves or more, we're going to move on one more time and go on to the next wave. And we're basically just going to see how high in this array we can go. And this is a way of automating the system. Okay, so now within this for loop, what we can do is type that we're going to get some use out of the other variable that we declared. We had our ship level variable, and we're going to say our ship level is equal to I plus 1. So I by default is going to be 0, but we want the ship level to actually be 1 higher than the value of the array, because if you remember, the array element 0 is actually our ship level 1, element 1 is our ship level 2, element 2 is our ship level 3. So we want that plus 1 in there, or else we're going to have the wrong ship level. And just to test this is working, because it's getting very confusing, I want to put a print statement in here and say print number of waves cleared required is waves waves cleared required at position I plus at position I. And let's go ahead and test that out and see if this is working properly. It would also help if I had the console open. So 1 wave is done, nothing yet. Player's max level. Okay, and for each of these enemies that's spawning, I'm getting this now. The number of waves cleared required is 2, and we're at position 0 in the array. So we are getting this position here. And I could say the ship level. I could ask it to print out the ship level as well, but we'll be okay with that for the moment. And then, if we are doing this correctly, we want to write a wishful statement over here. And we can actually say down here, print enemy ship level is ship level. We just want to say enemy ship level is ship level. And then we're going to have a separate statement that we haven't created yet. We're going to call it handle ship level, and we're going to pass the value of that ship level into it. And we're just create that down here for now. It's going to be blank, and we're going to cover this in the next video because this one's going to get too long. Int ship level. Okay. Let's test this out one more time. I'm getting an error. What did I do? Oh, I have a syntax error. See, I make mistakes. Right, I did not close that off. Okay, test this out one more time, and for good practice, I'm going to speed the video up here, and we're going to clear it all the way to, what the heck? Okay, for some reason, this game object new explosion just became emptied on the enemy behavior script. This is Unity being a little weird. The variable new explosion. I'm going to pause the video here for a second and just figure this out and then come back. Okay, apologies for that. I had created this, this is a capital S here, which was not what I wanted, and that was my problem. Had nothing to do with the new explosion. Anyways, getting on, I'm going to speed things up here and just run through and test to see if it's all working properly all the way to clearing wave 6. Okay, so here we are at wave 6, and we can see that I'm getting an error here. Array index is out of range. And if we collapse, yeah, so we can see that we're getting this error for every ship that spawns. And there's a reason for this, and that is because the array here at waves cleared required is going too high, because after we hit 6 waves, this is still trying to increment itself. But it's checking for criteria that no longer exists. So we can just debug this by using an if statement here. But to do that, we're going to have to create a new integer here. And we're going to say int max waves cleared is equal to waves cleared required at position waves cleared required dot length -1. And if you're thinking I just typed that out at the top of my head, I actually did. I knew this was going to happen here, so I did pause to come up with this ahead of time. But basically what I'm doing here is creating an integer to recognize the value of the maximum number of waves cleared. So I'm figuring out what is the maximum element in the array. So in this case it's element 4, and then I'm taking the value of whatever is in that position, in this case 6, and storing it in that max waves cleared variable. And that's the formula for doing this. And now we're going to debug this out with an if statement, and we're going to say if the number of waves cleared is greater than or equal to max waves cleared, then we're going to do something, and then we're going to put here in an else statement our for loop and close that off. And within the first if statement, we're just going to say ship level is equal to waves cleared required dot length. So the length of our array is our ship level if we're maxed out. Okay, so one more time, speed it up, test it out. So here we are, wave 6, and it's telling me that the enemies are spawning at ship level 5, which is perfect, that's what we want. And here we go, we can see it's incrementing again, they're still spawning at their maximum level. So they're not getting any stronger yet, but we have established a working level up system that automatically tests the criteria, and you could increase this array here to any size you want, and it will still continue to work. So that's long enough for this video. We'll handle actually making the enemy stronger in the next video. But that's it for now. Please, if you have any questions, let me know. I hope I was able to go over all of this clear enough. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.